Coach, if you can give us an opening statement.
Yeah, great job by Ole Miss. They've obviously pitched very well here. They certainly did in this game, as they did against Florida and Arkansas. So proud of our team. Had an excellent regular season. Really excited about playing home baseball, next week, hopefully the next 2 weeks, and we'll get ready for that. Get home tonight, get the day off tomorrow, see the lay of the land on Monday, and get right to work right after that.
Questions for Jared, please raise your hand. Cobble on the right.
Michael Cobble, WBRZ TV in Baton Rouge. Jared, since the third inning yesterday, you guys haven't had any run support. I guess just what are you seeing out there, and how concerned are you about the offense?
Yeah, I think it's baseball. I think there's going to be ups and downs, highs and lows, but we got to be tougher mentally to handle those. And we weren't that today at all, and we'll be better for it and better moving forward.
Next for Jared, on the front row on the right.
Jared, I was wondering what you knew about Cade Townsend coming into this game, and what did you see from him? What did he give Ole Miss those first 4 2/3?
Yeah, good heater, upper 90s, and then obviously low 90s slider, so kind of one-speed hitting, and we just didn't do a good job of separating pitches today. Kind of let him off the hook a few times in 3-ball counts, and doesn't lead to a lot of success. So myself included, I got to do better in the box at the top of the order and get things going.
Next for Jared on the third row.
Jacob Renner, Baseball America. Jared, how have you seen the pitching maybe improve across the conference over the course of this year?
Yeah, it's been a tough year, obviously. I think there's a lot of great arms throughout the league and country. I just think, it's the SEC, and you're going to get the best players day in and day out. And there's no time to make excuses and no time to feel bad for yourself. There's going to be another game for us this season, and it's about getting on to that one.
Third row on the right.
John Eads, WFB. Jared, when you're facing a team you haven't seen this year and you have short time to prepare for an opposing pitching staff, how difficult does it make it for you guys batting?
It's baseball, You're not really facing the pitcher, you're facing the ball, and then it's the same thing pretty much day in and day out, upper 90s fastball with some sort of slider or changeup. So you just got to be prepared every day to go out there and see something that you've seen before. I've been in the league for 3 years. I don't feel like I haven't seen anything that I'm going to see throughout the rest of this year. So it's just about getting back into character, slowing down at the plate, and taking tougher at-bats.
Second row.
Jared, Matt Tallery from World Baseball Network. What's it like to have, guys like Shores and Myers that can eat innings completely, and what they did today against Ole Miss's offense?
Yeah, that was huge for us. I hope that doesn't get overlooked by how all 3 of those guys threw today, Newt included. It's tough to go out there and be as bad on offense as we were, I guess would be the word, when they threw as well as we did. And we talked before the game about how 4 to 5 runs would win the game, and it would have, and we weren't able to come through in that. But those 3 guys gave us a really good opportunity to win this game.
On the front row.
Cokie Riley with The Advocate. Jared, have you noticed any sort of pattern that pitchers are trying to execute against you guys over the last couple of games?
I think not necessarily a pattern. I just think guys are executing pitches, and we're kind of getting ourselves out at times. I think we could be better, battling and getting pitch counts up, and then obviously just moving forward, it's about getting on to the next game. This game, as much as it hurts and as much as we want to maybe dwell on it, we just more got to learn from it and move on. Coach Johnson always says, learn the lesson, leave the moment. So that's going to be the biggest thing for today.
Last 2 for Coach on the right.
Jared, Mitch Davis and MitchDavisShow.com. Jared, I do want to ask you about the quality opponents you face in this conference, and how does that prepare you for the NCAA tournament and also Omaha?
Yeah, it's a great training ground for Omaha. It's 30-game playoff in the SEC. You got to go out there, and every game counts the same. And then obviously here in the SEC tournament, you're playing for a chance to host a regional and a super regional, and then even better, win a tournament. And that's something I didn't get to do while I was at LSU, and it's on to the next one with regional and whatever else is ahead of us.
All right, last one for Jared on the right.
Jared, just about that, playing at home, earning that right. I guess just how do you use this next couple of days, to kind of hit the reset and get ready for what is ahead of you?
Yeah, got to get back to Baton Rouge, get recovered, and get rested, and get right back to work. I'm sure we'll have practice, either, Monday or, for sure on Tuesday. And it's just about getting right back into our character of play and being ready to show up on Friday or Thursday whenever the regional starts.
All right, Jared, congratulations on your play this week. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
All right, if there are questions for Coach, please raise your hand on the right.
Okay, it's Mitch Davis to MitchDavisShow.com. I know you and I have mentioned this in the preseason on a podcast. And how does this tournament, how does this conference, similar question to Jared, prepare you guys for the postseason and the quality opponents you'll face?
Yeah, I think he said it well. When you look at what is ahead of us, this point forward, we won't see anything we haven't seen from a talent perspective. I thought, 15 of the 16 teams could compete to probably go to Omaha this year, and that's because the talent on the field makes it a very competitive environment. And I think our team, how they handled the schedule, the consistency in which they did, should play with great confidence going forward, and that's what I expect them to do.
On the second row on the right.
Chessa Boucher with NBC 33 in Baton Rouge. Coach, first shutout loss for you guys this season. Would you credit more of what Ole Miss was doing, or are there more concerns as you get ready for postseason play?
Well, they gave up 1 on Wednesday. They gave up 2 yesterday, and they gave up 0 today. So they obviously have a formula that works good. We hadn't seen them. I was immediately impressed when I came to their game on Wednesday night at how much better their team has gotten, from last year and then throughout this year. And it's credit to those players and the coaching staff there. I think, as Jared said, there's things that we will attack to do better, that we can control. Some of it is the opponent making it difficult. Some of it's baseball. Some of it's the day. One of the assistants from Vanderbilt, said something to Coach Yeski about, just throw it over the plate today because the ball's not going anywhere. So maybe that's part of it. I don't think it necessarily was a factor for us. Furness hit the homer, for sure, about 20 minutes after he had said that. But we'll get back to work. It's the only way that I do it and operate.
Third row on the right.
Coach, you mentioned yesterday one of the reasons for pitching Cade and Anthony was to get some other guys opportunities today. Jaden, Chase, and Jacob all go and look pretty good out there. Did you see what you wanted to see from them?
Oh, yeah. 3 hits, 2 runs. That's going to work most of the time for us. I think that's the second time in 4 years we've been shut out. So, credit Ole Miss. So 3 is usually going to be enough, and I would bet on it being enough. And what a performance by those guys. Really happy with how Jaden, I thought he took a step forward last week at South Carolina. I thought he took another step forward today against a good team. I thought Chase was outstanding, and Jacob has been working his tail off, and I'm really glad we got that opportunity for him today.
Third row in the middle.
With Chase specifically, how have you seen him improve over the last couple of weeks and start to kind of round into form a little bit?
Yeah, I think he just needed time, and I think that I say this all the time, and our local media, the best coach you're ever going to have in your life is playing time and getting on that mound. And because he's a third-year guy, you forget. He only threw 18 innings as a freshman before he had the injury and then missed all of last year. And I think the best thing that we probably did for him was start him and get the innings up and get the experience up, and had to grind through some of that. But he did. And he's obviously incredibly talented. He's got a great head on his shoulders. We have some experience underneath us now. I think that's leading to confidence, more conviction, better pitches, and really excited about that.
Got time for 2 more for Coach. First row.
Coach, you guys haven't struck out that much during this little cold streak, but I think 17 flyouts in the last 15 innings. Are you guys just getting under the ball a little bit too much? Is that just a product of not quite executing the plan?
Well, I think it would be a bad answer by me if I generalized it. I think it's a little bit more of a guy-by-guy question. I think there was a situation where we had a couple runners on, and I felt like the game sped up in one at bat, and we expanded the zone and ended up striking out. I think we expanded the zone the very next inning, like with a leadoff guy. We had a 2-1 count. We swung at a ball. We get the guy in the stretch. We had a little tough luck. I put Jake in motion on a 3-2 pitch, and Ethan hit a line drive right at the third baseman for a double play. If that goes down the line, and second and third, no outs, or maybe a runner on second and 1 in, because Jake runs so well. But, yeah, I would say, some guys, expanding the zone, some guys missing their pitch, some guys beneath the ball. And you can't be beneath the ball when that guy's running it up there 97 miles an hour like that. So I think it's a guy-by-guy, thing. And, having been through this and faced enough good pitching over 20-plus whatever years of doing this, the most important thing is to remain positive, stay with it, be very detailed, task-oriented in your plans for each of them. And that's what we'll do this week.
All right, last one on the right.
Did you get what you wanted out of these 2 games?
Well, I wanted to win. I really think it's disrespectful and not competitive for anybody to, not go for it, and that we certainly didn't. We did that. We just, would have liked to have scored a few more runs today. So, the main goal is the NCAA tournament, but I feel really good about the 3 guys that threw today. Obviously, felt good about what we accomplished with the 2 pitchers last night. We had 1 error in 2 games, which was on a pick-off move. And offensively, no secret, we'll work at being better, and I expect us to be better next Friday.
All right, Coach, thanks for your time this week.
All right, thank you. Thank you, guys.
All right, welcome back to the 2025 SEC Baseball Tournament Game 14 post-game press conference, joined by the Ole Miss Rebels, represented by head coach Mike Bianco, along with pitcher Connor Spencer, first baseman Will Furness. In a moment, Coach will give an opening statement, and then we'll take questions directed to players only, please. Please wait for the microphone and identify yourself when it gets there. Coach, if you'd make an opening statement.
Obviously another really good baseball game, I thought, by both teams. One of those pitching duels that I thought both teams pitched it, outstanding. And, we got a big home run, by Will in the first, and a couple hits, in an inning, with a big base hit by Smithwick to get us two. That usually doesn't do it. It's usually not enough. But I really think, the story of the game, was us on the mound. Obviously, a true freshman in Cade Townsend to pitch 4 2/3 against a very, very good offense. In this environment, which is different, than a lot of places, and especially conference tournaments, and it was loud there today. So for Cade to perform like that, his best outing of the year, we tried to prime him for that, and a lot of midweek starts, but nothing like that today. So for him to perform like that, and then of course Spence at the end, who's just been lights out, and so just proud of our guys, and rest up and get ready for another good team tomorrow in Vanderbilt.
Questions for the players? Let's start right here in the front right.
For Will, Matt Talverney from World Baseball Network. What was the pitch you recognized during your at-bat, and also just trying to help the offense with Mitchell and Luke striking out to start the game?
I was actually sitting fastball, but he threw me a hanging slider, and I just saw it out of hand. He left it over the plate, and I just honestly tried to hit it hard. I didn't really think it was going to get out today because of the wind, but it somehow it got out. But
fourth row on the left.
This one's for Connor. Like Mike was saying, there's a ton of LSU fans here. I mean, everyone kind of saw his purple everywhere. Not to discredit Ole Miss fans, but to pitch in the ninth inning, game on the line. Take me through that moment and what that final out was like for you.
I mean, yeah, it's awesome. Those are the kind of moments that I really live for as a closer. I feel like that's kind of where I thrive, at that last 3 outs of the game. And it did get very loud with 2 outs, and after I walked the guy, I couldn't really hear my pitch comm, and so I was trying to make sure that they were – I was trying to make sure I was still on the right pitches before anything else. But no, to do that, and especially against a really good team like that, it's awesome.
In the back on the right.
Connor, Mitch Davis at MitchDavisShow.com. I do want to ask you about this pitching staff. Your unreal performances this week and really done well to close out the season. What's been different the last couple weeks, and kind of how do you feel heading into the championship and also the rest of the postseason?
I mean, yeah, we don't have to worry about school anymore, which helps a lot. So we really get to focus on just baseball. I really think the biggest thing the pitching staff has kind of been doing lately is really, really hanging out together and just coming together for the most part. We're always hanging out with each other, even outside of the field, and we're not just teammates. We're buddies, and I think that really helps for encouraging guys who, whenever they do go out there, and you also kind of get a realization for what makes people tick, and you can kind of say the right things to them to get them in their right headspace to go and compete the way that they've been doing all week.
The second row on the left.
Connor, this one's for you too. You've been pretty busy the last couple of days. How much does adrenaline help you in this time of year and in getting you ready? And then as a pitcher, just what did you think of Cade Townsend today? Did you know that he had that kind of performance in him?
Oh, yeah. So Cade Townsend is my roommate on the road, actually. He's a little 19-year-old freshman, and I'm a 24-year-old senior, so we get along just well. But I've kind of talked to him about what I've learned in college and what's helped me, and to kind of almost feel like I'm his big brother and guiding him in a way that I feel if I had this, all this energy pent up the way he does, kind of just straighten him out and be able to kind of use that to go and perform the way he did. I've seen it in him since the first day that I met him. He's always been one of my favorite little freshmen, and yeah, he's really good dude and a really good competitor too.
Second row.
Jake Thompson, Ole Miss Spirit on through. Will, I think you said out there on TV that you've been on this program for 3 years, but you said this team feels different. Can you expound on that a little bit?
We're really together, and the last couple of years doesn't seem like we've had a bunch of fight. And, when we get down, we just kind of give up, or, we ride the ups and downs too much. We don't stay even keel. This group is older, and, I think we're honestly tighter. And when things go bad, we don't dip too low. And when things are going good, we don't go too high. And I think that's the recipe for success, like Coach B says, So, just a very mature group of guys, and we're all kind of like family. So it's good to have this group with us.
All right, last one for the players right in the center of the room.
Will, Sam Hutchins, Clarion Ledger. With what Connor's done here in Hoover, but also just all season, what sort of comfort does that bring an offense to have a guy like that coming out in the ninth?
Oh, it's awesome. The offense will sometimes joke around, as long as we have the lead going in the ninth, we're going to be good because we got this guy in the bullpen. So it's really comforting, especially, seeing him jog out of the bullpen. Enter Sandman comes on. That's freaking sweet. It's cool. It's a cool song, and it gets me pumped up, and I know it gets him pumped up too. But, not only that, he's really good up there. And I don't really know many pitchers that can just throw fastballs and shove it down somebody's throat, especially, the good teams that we face. But he can do it, and he does it every time.
Well, Will and Connor, congratulations on the win. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
All right, if there's questions for Coach, we'll start on the front, second row on the left.
Mike, also just your thoughts on what Gunnar gave you today and in the middle part of that game, and maybe one of his better performances recently.
It really was, and that was a huge performance and probably gets lost in it, and a lot of kudos to Cade in the start, which he deserves, and of course Spence at the end. But the two guys in the middle were special, Gunnar and McCausland bouncing back from maybe a little rough, outing yesterday. I thought he was really sharp. Big changeup today, which we felt would work well against that lineup. At least if we could get 5-6 outs from them. Sometimes the plan doesn't go as quite like you planned it, but today it did. We were hopeful to get Townsend 4 or 5. Let him handle some adversity out there, not go too quick to the pen. But we wanted to go left-handed after that and kind of switch it up a little bit, and obviously wanted to go to a veteran guy like Dennis. I thought he was terrific.
Back right.
Coach Mitch Davis, MitchDavis.com. I do want to ask you a similar question. What was the message to these guys the last couple of weeks to get this pitching staff rolling and really here in Hoover?
Well, obviously the credit goes to the players. They're the ones out there throwing and performing, but a lot of credit's got to go to Joel Mangrum. And we said it yesterday in the press conference here, how well we've pitched it, down the stretch. Not even down the stretch like a week or two, but how strong we've been on the mound the second half of conference play on both sides, from the starting pitchers to the bullpen, and even with an injury to Braden Jones, we've been able to sustain that, and so they just continue to get better and better. I think Spence is real sincere in that, how they're close, they pull for one another, and that's neat. There's a lot of guys in baseball that staff, you're going to hand the ball off to a lot of different people, and knowing that you have each other's back, sometimes makes the biggest difference in the world.
The back left.
Carlo Brown, WCBI TV. Mike, your team has knocked off two of the best teams, not only the SEC, but in all of college baseball. What was the message to the group after, another big win? That's 3 in the last 4 days.
Well, we just want to continue to play well, and I know it sounds like coaches speak, but it's really not about who you're playing. We feel we're pretty good as well, and when we play well, we can play with anybody in the country. And one of the things that we've talked about for a long time now is, can we play consistently well over a period of time? Baseball is a tough game to do that, but this team's done it now for a few weeks.
Third row on the right, Glenn.
Mike, what did you think of LSU's pitchers there, particularly the last two?
They were terrific. I thought they pitched it well. I mean, when you look at this game, after them pitching their 1-2 yesterday, to go what they did, and really it's a home run and a couple base hits, spaced between an error. That's the only 2 runs of the game, and so they pitched. We win. We get a lot of credit for the way we pitched it, but man, they pitched it just as well as we did.
Second row on the left.
Michael Katz, Daily Journal. Kate Townsend's had his ups and downs this year. What gave you the confidence to put him on this sort of stage? Is it the stuff, or is it the temperament? Combination of both?
I think it's everything. It's tough. This league is tough for freshmen. It's tough for anybody, but it's especially tough for freshmen. And to come in with the high expectations that Cade did, and we've talked about this throughout the year. Certainly, it's not hard to see the stuff when he goes out there, but just to be consistent. And when you watch him, week in and week out on those Tuesdays, and he's pitched well, but usually it's an inning that gets him right. It's not that he can't handle the moment. It's not that he's not good enough to do this at its highest level on the weekend against a top 5 team. But can you make a pitch and get off the field? And he did that a couple times today in a big environment, tough environment. And for that, we're really proud of him, because that's the growth that you're seeing. And the guy that you expected one day he's going to be a weekend starter, a Friday night starter in the Southeastern Conference.
Second row on the right.
Coach, how did you feel about Austin's performance today behind the dish, and just how he pretty much helped the pitching staff out today with the shutout win?
Yeah, he's terrific, and I don't know if it was his 17th, something like that, home run yesterday. He was sitting up here, and we're certainly glad for all of those 17 home runs. But it goes really unnoticed, and that's kind of the catching position. The catchers are usually the offensive linemen. People really don't notice them, unless they miss a ball or something bad happens. But if you watch him, throughout the game, the 150 pitches that he catches every game, and how many balls he blocks, how many strikes that he gets us and doesn't, gets ball. He's as good as anybody in the country at receiving, meaning, getting balls called strikes and keeping strikes. He does it very, very well. And then you saw his arm today. He's been outstanding all year long.
Third row in the middle.
Jacob Renner, Baseball America. The players cited their closeness, but from your angle, what do you think has contributed to the rise that this program's experienced this year after the way the last 2 years have went to be back where you guys are at now?
I said it yesterday. I think it starts with the older guys, especially the 4 Mississippi guys, Spence included, but along with Elliott, Maddox, and Nichols. 4 old guys that could have been drafted and signed and moved on last year decided to come back. They didn't want 3 of them have a national championship ring. 3 of them were in that dugout in Omaha in 22, and I think the last couple of years have left with a lot of people, but a real bitter taste in their mouth, and they didn't want to go out that way. And so, they've made it their mission, because in 22 they were freshmen. Now they're the old guys. And so I credit them with the great leadership, but then also a lot of other guys, Foley and Mormon and Humphrey and Sanford and other guys that came from other programs that have meshed into this culture and this team, and not only have been great teammates, but also have shown leadership. And leadership, comes in a lot of different ways. And so I've said it yesterday that older teams win in our league, and this is an old team.
All right, last one for Coach in the middle.
Sam Hutchins, Clarion Ledger. I guess sort of on that, but with what Will and Connor said about this team just finding a closeness that's been fostered, what examples of that do you see? And what about that is so beneficial for a tournament like this or an NCAA tournament, that kind of chemistry?
Chemistry, leadership, those are essential to success, but a lot of times those are questions usually answered at the end. As our beat writers, a lot of people ask about that in the fall. And, in the fall, everybody plays and you don't win or lose, but in the spring, all of a sudden, you only 9 or 10 guys playing, you have 40 men on your roster. So that means 75% of the guys aren't in that lineup today. And so once that starts to happen, you start to see what kind of team you have. And, through the adversity, when you say example, the best example I can give you is we haven't always been our best this year. There's been games that we'd like to take back. There's been weekends that we'd like to take back. But we never hit a stretch where we were just bad. We've seemed to always recover. One of the mantras of the year has been shower well. And, what that means, it's a metaphor for, win or lose today, shower well and let that loss go down the drain and show up tomorrow. It's a new day. And so this team's been able to really buy into that. This team that even when we haven't been at our best, and I think, Will said it, they never seem too down. They're excited to win, certainly, excited after tonight's game. But they'll be the same team tomorrow morning in the meetings, same team tomorrow in batting practice, and those teams seem to find success more often.
All right, Coach, thanks for your time today. Good luck tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.